Hello. She slid the divorce papers across the table at our anniversary dinner. No warning. No privacy. No kindness. It happened right after dessert, with two waiters standing close by, a sommelier hovering, and her office favorite sitting right there like he belonged. The envelope had my name written in her handwriting, neat and careful, the same way she used to label gifts for birthdays. The guy beside her, Tyler, lifted his glass and smiled like he had already won something. "From all of us," Lauren said, wearing a smug little grin. She said it like she was handing me a present, like it was clever, like it was a joke. 21 years together, and she wrapped the ending up like a stunt video online. I stared at the envelope, then looked at her face. She had on the red dress I bought her the year before. Back then, she said it made her look too old. Funny how it suddenly worked just fine now that she had an audience. I could see the whole thing had been practiced. The smile, the fake toast, the quick glance toward Tyler. Every move was planned. It was a show, and I was the only one who did not know I had bought a ticket to my own embarrassment. She leaned toward me and whispered, "Do not make this awkward, okay? It is just time." That word, time. People use it when they already decided everything and want you to feel like you agreed. Tyler snorted a laugh and added, "You are a solid guy. You will be fine." I looked straight at him. I did not yell. I did not cause a scene. I just gave a small, worn-out smile. Then I opened the envelope, took out the papers, and signed them right there at the table. No pause. No argument. "Congratulations to both of you," I said. They blinked, confused. "I hope your human resources department offers generous severance packages," I added. They did not hear that part. They were already clinking glasses again. I paid the check. I tipped well. I always do. When I handed my ticket to the valet, I glanced back through the window. They were laughing. Her attention was already gone from me. His hand was already resting on her shoulder. They did not notice the smile I gave the valet. They also did not notice the business card I slipped into his hand. It was for a job opening at a smaller company tied to me, one her family had no idea I controlled. They did not know that 2 weeks earlier I had quietly secured 37% of her family's company. I did it through 3 separate holding firms, layered carefully, clean, and untraceable. They did not know I used the trust my mother left behind. Money they believed I never touched. Money they assumed I could not reach. They did not know I had spent the last 3 months preparing for that exact dinner. They thought they had beaten me. What really happened was I pulled the cord on a parachute I stitched together behind their backs. And if you are still listening right now and you have not followed the channel yet, now is a good moment. More than 90% of people listen all the way through and never follow. That support keeps this going. And trust me, the next part matters. When I drove away that night, the papers sat on the passenger seat. Signed, but meaningless. By the time the ink set, they had already lost something far more important than me. They just did not know it yet. 2 months before that dinner, I tried to help. Not to play hero. Not to rescue anyone. It just felt like the right thing to do. Her family company, Harrington and Cole, was falling apart. Her father had stepped down, leaving the business to a group of sharp-dressed amateurs pretending to be leaders. They were desperate for money after 2 failed product launches and a public relations disaster her brother set off online like a trash fire. I knew their numbers. I had helped steady them once before, quietly, without credit. I brought it up over coffee. She laughed. "You want to help with a corporate restructuring?" she said, staring at her phone while typing a message she claimed was for marketing. Then she said, without looking at me, "I love you, but stay in your lane. Stay in your lane." That sentence sat heavy in my chest for days. Like food that does not make you sick right away, but poisons you slowly. So I went quiet. I focused. While she traveled to conferences and late planning dinners, I made calls. I contacted Diane, my mother's longtime estate attorney. The trust fund I never touched, never bragged about, never mentioned except at 2 funerals and once at a birth. It was still there, growing, waiting. Diane connected me with a man named Caleb, a financial advisor who specialized in what he called invisible control. His job was not to buy companies. His job was to make sure no one knew who actually owned them. I told him exactly what I wanted. A hidden structure. Multiple layers. 1 firm registered offshore. 1 in Delaware. 1 on paper in South Dakota, where nobody looks too closely. Each firm would buy a small, non-threatening share of Harrington and Cole. Alone, they meant nothing. Together, they totaled 37%. Enough voting power to block decisions. Enough influence to force changes. Enough leverage to stop her cold. I was not chasing profit. I was building control. By the third week, the first holding company was active. Clean names. Perfect paperwork. Caleb worked with the calm precision of someone who never leaves evidence behind. No loose ends. No calls that could be traced. Then the timing lined up. Her cousin Evan was promoted to vice president of strategy, a position he was as ready for as Tyler was to run a customer loyalty program. Evan approved the cash infusion through holding entity Bravo, not knowing it was directly connected to holding entity Alpha, which had quietly picked up 9% of the voting shares through a dilution round Evan himself approved. It was almost embarrassing how easy it was. That same weekend, I saw my wife post a photo online. It was her and Tyler at some rooftop bar, glasses raised, city lights behind them. The caption read, "When your work husband understands that your love language is wine and vision boards." Little sparkle emojis and everything. She thought she was being clever. Thought she was cute. Maybe she figured I would see it and feel small. Instead, I filed another transfer form. By Monday morning, I controlled 29.4% of the company. By Thursday, we crossed 34%. Caleb asked me, "Do you want to finish it?" I nodded. "Take it to 37. Stop just short of the trigger threshold. Let them stay relaxed." A few days later, I ran into Evan again at a charity brunch. He clearly forgot I would be there. He clapped me on the shoulder and said, "You still working that dull analyst job?" I smiled and said, "Yep, staying in my lane." The divorce papers were barely cold when her attorney called. He sounded young, confident, and overpolished. The kind of guy whose name probably ended with the third or fourth of something. "Mr. Collins," he said, putting on a soft voice that felt fake, "we are requesting a fair division of all jointly acquired assets, including any recent financial investments you may have made. Of course, we would prefer to keep this amicable." I let him talk. Same way you let a mosquito buzz before you swat it. "I will send the documents," I said. An hour later, his fax machine printed 10 pages. The first page was standard language. The second was Schedule Charlie. One line stood out clear as day. Assets held within the Collins Family Irrevocable Trust, established in 2002, are excluded from community property pursuant to both prenuptial and postnuptial agreements. Attached were notarized filings, signed statements from the estate attorney, and one beautiful footnote. Assets acquired using principal from this trust are deemed separate property under Clause 7, subsection E plain English. Every dollar I used to buy those shares belonged only to me. Untouchable. Not a penny was shared property. Not one fraction of that company was hers to argue over. 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. Same number. Completely different tone. "Mr. Collins, I am reviewing what you sent. This trust is solid." I could hear papers sliding. Maybe even his pulse. He was not ready for this. He had expected tears. Panic. A broken man begging for compromise after getting blindsided over steak and red wine. Instead, he found a trust created before my marriage, approved through my late mother's estate, and reinforced by legal opinions from 3 retired judges who all happened to play cards with my uncle. This was not a loophole. It was a bunker. "She told us," he said carefully, "that you had no personal assets, that everything was joint, that you were not involved in her business matters." "She was wrong," I said. Pause. "I see," he replied. "No," I said. "You do not. Not yet." Then I hung up. I poured myself a glass of the same wine we drank at the anniversary dinner. The one she used to complain tasted like old shoes and regret, right up until Tyler started ordering it. I did not drink it. I just held it. Let the smell settle. The thing is, men like her lawyer do not understand men like me. Quiet men. Patient men. Men who do not raise their voice when insulted or fall apart when betrayed. We write things down. We document. We build trusts that look boring until they become tools. We take offense slowly, but we never forget. I had already mapped everything they might come after. The condominium, the investment accounts, even the framed art in the hallway. But the real move, the shares, the voting rights, the quiet control spread across 3 companies she could not even pronounce, that was protected long before she ever chose the envelope. Here's the best part. While her attorney scrambled to rethink his approach, I had already called mine. "Send our proposal," I told him. He laughed, not smug, just impressed. Then he asked, "Do we go easy?" I swirled the wine. Thought about Tyler. Thought about her. No, I said. Start polite. Let us see how fast they unravel. The first crack came from the most boring place imaginable. Compliance. One of those monthly reports nobody reads unless a lawyer marks it in red. Buried 5 pages deep was a short note. As of the most recent filing, holding entity Bravo's voting power has surpassed 9.7% due to consolidation via associated firms. Combined influence currently estimated at 37.1%. Her uncle Frank had been chief operating officer since the early 2000s. He hated surprises. He hated legal tricks even more. He called an emergency meeting with legal, finance, and most importantly, the listed contact for holding entity Bravo. That was Caleb's representative. The man showed up dressed like a harmless accountant. Polished shoes, silver cufflinks, voice smooth and cheerful. He let them talk first. Frank slammed the table and demanded, "Who is backing you?" The man just smiled. "Our majority partner prefers discretion." Frank hated that sentence the moment he heard it. "You do not get to prefer anything," he snapped. "You are a shareholder, not a dictator." The man across the table calmly slid a single sheet of paper forward. "Actually, Clause 11.3 gives us the right to block any product expansion that requires cross-divisional licensing once ownership exceeds 33%. Frank turned sharply to the chief financial officer. "Did you know about this?" The man looked like he might be sick. "That clause was written during the 2008 restructuring," the chief financial officer said weakly. "It has never been used." "Well," the representative replied, "it has been used now. Your niece's new lifestyle brand is denied." At that exact moment, my wife was laughing on a rooftop bar in Midtown, bragging to Evan about scaling fast and shaking up the industry. Evan shifted in his seat, nervous as always. "I think we hit a problem," he said. "Your rollout got blocked." She froze. "What? Blocked how?" "A new partner used a veto clause. Something about distribution rights overlapping with pharmaceutical intellectual property licensing." She waved him off. "That is just procedure. I will fix it on Monday." Monday never came. That night, after brushing her teeth, she glanced at the bed and realized it was still perfectly made. She was alone again. Tyler was out at a friend's place. She poured a glass of water, stared at the dull glow of her work laptop, then picked up her phone and called me. I answered. Her voice stayed steady at first. "Did you do something with Harrington and Cole?" I stayed quiet. "I mean, not that I care," she added quickly, "but Evan mentioned a holding company blocked my launch. Something about licensing. I thought maybe you heard something." I could picture her pacing, one hand on her hip, jaw tight. "I have heard about it," I said. Silence. "Did you do this?" she asked. "I do not own anything under my personal name," I replied. "But if I were you, I would check the shareholder registry." She hung up. 15 minutes later, her virtual private network login triggered the internal access log. Someone pulled the registry records. The audit trail would show her user identification. She found it. The same 3 holding firms. She clicked fast until she reached the cross-reference protected under Delaware Trust Administration, tied to my mother's estate firm. That is when her hands started to shake. She was not just being blocked. She was being trapped from the inside. For the first time, it hit her. I did not just walk out of her life. I walked into the one place she thought was untouchable, and I came prepared. The boardroom looked exactly the same as it had for 20 years. Long mahogany table, dusty portraits of the founders, a glass bowl of peppermints nobody ever touched. A room designed to feel important so the people inside it would believe they were. She entered like she owned it, which until then, she mostly did. Slate gray suit, hair pulled tight, face locked into that corporate expression she used when she sensed danger but had not located it yet. The board was called under emergency conditions. The agenda was clear: revoke a recently acquired block of voting rights held by an unauthorized third party. Her words. Frank opened the meeting. "We will begin this emergency session. Lauren has submitted a motion." She stood, voice sharp and rehearsed. "There has been a hostile acquisition using misrepresented holding entities. This threatens our long-term strategy and exposes us to liability. I move to revoke all voting rights from this partner until a full investigation is completed." Evan muttered something about due process. She shut him down with a look that could kill houseplants. Just as the vote was about to begin, the boardroom door opened. I walked in. No announcement. No escort. just steady steps and a slim black folder in my hand. "Mr. Collins," Frank said slowly, "this is a closed session." I raised the folder. "Not trespassing. This document was filed 3 days ago with your legal counsel. Clause 12.2. New controlling ownership. It overrides all previous voting arrangements." I set it on the table in front of her. She did not look at me. She stared at the folder like it might blow up. Evan picked it up, flipped through it. "This says the combined holdings of entities Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie now form a controlling interest." Frank took it, read carefully, then looked up. "And this was registered with the state?" "Stamped and verified," I said. "3 holding firms, all voting together." She finally met my eyes. "You cannot do this." "You are right," I said calmly. "You cannot." She stepped forward. "This is fraud. Shell companies. Bad faith." "Save the ethics lecture," I said. "You handed me divorce papers during a toast. Let us not pretend anyone here is pure." The room went silent. After a long breath, Frank looked around the table. All in favor of recognizing the new majority partnership. Hands went up one by one. Evan was last. He looked at her, then at me. Then, like a man choosing which ship not to drown with, he raised his hand slowly. Frank nodded. Motion approved. She stayed where she was. Did not speak. Did not move. Just stood there blinking, like someone who had finally realized the ground was gone. She tried to speak. Her mouth opened, then closed again, like the words could not find a way out. Frank did not wait. Per procedural bylaw 4.3, he said evenly, all leadership roles not confirmed by majority approval must be reassigned. He paused, then looked straight at her. Effective immediately, Lauren Collins is removed from her interim chair position. The words landed hard. No applause. No sympathy. No one slid her a glass of water. Not even Evan. She looked around the table at her uncle, her cousin, the chief financial officer, the legal representative, like she was staring at strangers at a funeral she was never invited to attend. I stood there with my arms folded, watching the quiet collapse of the empire she once talked down to me from. Power does not always shout. Sometimes it just signs its name at the bottom of a page and walks away. The letter arrived by courier. Not email. Not overnight delivery. A man in a gray suit knocked on her door at 9:03 in the morning. He asked for her by name and handed her a thick, cream-colored envelope with a raised seal in the corner. The kind of envelope that only shows up when something is being permanently cut loose. She ripped it open right there in the hallway. The first sentence knocked the air out of her. Effective immediately, your consulting role with Harrington and Cole Innovations is hereby terminated, pursuant to Clause 8.1 of your advisory agreement. Then came the rest. All severance benefits are void in cases involving internal conflict of interest resulting in reputational or fiduciary damage. She read it again. Then again. The room felt like it tilted sideways. She called Human Resources. No answer. She called Evan. Straight to voicemail. She called Legal. An automated voice told her to contact external counsel. When she slammed her phone down on the marble counter, it cracked. Not the screen, just the quiet around her. She drove to her mother's house the way people drive when they are not thinking about consequences. Parked crooked in the driveway. Burst through the back door without knocking, waving the letter like evidence in a trial. He planned this, she shouted before she even reached the kitchen. He is destroying everything. The company. My position. My future. He has been plotting for months, and none of you stopped him. Her mother sat at the table in a robe, calmly spreading butter on toast. She did not jump. Did not look up. You humiliated him? She asked. What? Lauren snapped. That dinner. Yes, her mother said evenly. You let another man hand him divorce papers like a joke. You thought that would not cost you? Lauren froze. You are blaming me? Her mother finally looked up. Her eyes were tired, but sharp. No, I am saying you never truly saw him. And now you are shocked he is not being gentle. I am your daughter, Lauren said. I know, her mother replied. And you are smart. But you forgot the difference between being clever and being wise. Lauren opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Her mother went back to her toast. That was the moment it really hit her. Not the legal damage. Not the job loss. Not the severance clause. It was the tone. Detached. Finished. The same tone she had heard when her father stepped down years earlier. The sound of someone choosing silence instead of defense. She stormed out with the letter still clenched in her hand. Back in her car, She scrolled through her contacts. Cousins, public relations managers, board members, even Tyler. Names were grayed out. Calls went unanswered. Some profiles had quietly removed her name. Others had unfollowed her without a word. She stared at the screen and realized this was not an attack. It was erasure. I did not just remove her from the company. I made sure no one wanted to bring her back. At 10:01 that same morning, another message hit inboxes across the firm. Subject line, immediate personnel update. Effective immediately, Mr. Tyler Brooks has been relieved of all duties pending a formal conduct review. This action follows findings related to conflicts of interest and internal compliance violations associated with his recent promotion. A third-party investigation is underway. No explanation. No soft language. Just clean, corporate finality. Tyler never saw it coming. He was in the middle of a team meeting when his access shut down remotely. His email locked. His calendar vanished. Security escorted him out while half the room pretended not to notice. The other half suddenly realized they could not actually explain what his job had been. 10 minutes later, he called her. His voice was frantic. "What is happening?" he said. "They fired me. Or suspended me. I do not even know. My badge stopped working." She was still in bed, last night's makeup smeared on the pillow. "What?" she said. "They said it was because of you," he rushed on. "Your vote last month. You pushed my promotion through without neutral review. They are calling it a conflict. A policy violation." She sat straight up. "It was not nepotism," she said. But she already knew. It did not matter what it was called. "Yeah," he snapped. "Apparently sleeping with a board member counts. You are not even technically an employee, and it does not matter. They are auditing everything. Every email. Every internal message. What did you drag me into?" Her face went blank. "You said you wanted the role," she replied. "I said I trusted you." Then, softer, almost to herself, "You said this was just fun." The line went dead. She tried calling him back. No answer. She called human resources again. Voicemail. She called legal. A recorded voice told her the number no longer accepted direct inquiries. She called Evan. Straight to voicemail. She sat on the edge of the bed, phone still in her hand, sunlight cutting sharp lines across the carpet. She remembered joking once about replacing him after the initial public offering. She remembered sitting with him late one night, helping him write his first company-wide email. "You do not need experience," she told him back then. "Just confidence." Now that same confidence had turned into evidence. A liability. A reason for compliance teams to start sharpening knives. She opened her laptop and tried to log in. Access denied. Inbox suspended. Internal messaging archived. She was not just out. She was toxic. Later that day, she walked through the house without making a sound. The rooms felt too big. The walls felt farther apart. The same place that once echoed with strategy calls and private laughter now felt hollow. A fruit bowl sat on the counter, rotting. The wine refrigerator beeped, its door slightly open. A red folder rested near the kitchen window. She had not noticed it before. Legal mail. Her name printed plainly. No title. No position. Just her name. She stood barefoot on the cold tile and finally understood this was not temporary. This was not damage control. This was collapse. Careful. Precise. Quiet. When the blade is sharp enough, you do not feel it until it is already too late. The gala had always been her stage. Tall ceilings. Soft jazz. Champagne glasses, so thin they snapped if you breathed wrong. Public image was where she ruled. And even now, a few loyal people still thought of her as the face, or at least one of the faces, of the company. So when her former assistant sent a quiet message saying, "Your name is still on the guest list," she did not hesitate. She wore red. She always did. Red made people look. Red made her matter. At 7:08 in the evening, she stepped out of the car and paused for photos. No one asked for them. The photographers recognized her, but hesitated, trying to decide if she still belonged. Inside, the ballroom glowed with crystal lights and polite music meant to signal money without bragging. The public relations director spotted her and smiled carefully. "Oh, good to see you," she said. No hug. No title. Just polite distance. She made her rounds anyway. A handshake here. A comment there. Some people looked surprised. One person whispered, "I thought she was not allowed here," then stopped when she turned around. By 7:46, she held a glass of sparkling wine and was deep in a conversation about emerging markets with a man who still believed she had influence. Then the microphone tapped. The chief financial officer welcomed everyone, thanked donors, and announced the theme of the evening: rebuild, reinvent, reclaim. Then came the sentence that shifted the air. We are honored tonight to introduce our new strategic partner and majority donor for this year's initiatives, the Collins Foundation. Heads turned. Whispers spread. I walked in. Black tuxedo. Calm smile. Not alone. The woman on my arm was composed, graceful, older than me, and carried the kind of authority that did not need explanation. She chaired a children's technology foundation. Her name appeared on endowment lists and education panels. Together, we were the future of the room. She froze. The glass in her hand trembled. The public relations director rushed over, glowing. We are so grateful for your support of this year's expansion. I nodded. My eyes never moved toward her. No smile. No reaction. Nothing. Later, standing near the dessert table, pretending to study a floral arrangement, she overheard two guests talking by the donor wall as it updated live. Was there not someone else connected to this place? One asked. The other took a sip of whiskey. Yeah, she used to be somebody here. That line hurt more than any lawsuit. It was not cruel. It was not loud. It was just accurate. She had become a story people forgot how to finish. And I had become what came next. I saw it by accident. Or what people call an accident. It was a Tuesday afternoon. She was scrolling through luxury real estate listings the way she used to scroll social media. A kind of self-punishment. Comparing homes she could no longer afford to the one she once bragged about over brunch. Then one image stopped her cold. The white shiplap caught her eye first. Then the green roof. Then the crooked swing still hanging from the willow on the side yard. Her parents' lake house. The place where she spent summers building bonfires and winters watching her father show her how to check oil levels on a snowmobile. The place where her mother sat on the deck drinking Merlot and saying things like, "This house reminds us who we are." She clicked the listing. It was official. Private estate property. 3 bedrooms. 3.5 bathrooms. Sold through an off-market transfer. Buyer, Children's Recovery Foundation. Seller, holding trust number 3. She stopped breathing. Trust number 3. Mine. She grabbed her phone so fast it slipped from her hand and hit the floor. She picked it up and called me without thinking. I answered on the second ring. Calm. Always calm. You sold the lake house? She said, her words skipping over each other. That depends, I replied. Are you asking as my former wife, or as a former company representative who no longer manages those assets? Her voice cracked. That house was my childhood. It was my family. It was part of the company. It was part of the company's real estate portfolio, I said. Filed under underperforming assets. She inhaled sharply. You pushed it through. I signed the authorization legally, I said. I did not need board approval. She went quiet. So I kept going. They are converting it into a recovery retreat. Teen trauma programs. Art therapy. Outdoor work. 20 residents by spring. Her grip tightened on the phone. You had no right. I had every right, I said. You just assumed I would never use it. Silence filled the line. Heavy. Ugly. Then I said the words I had waited a very long time to say. You told me that house was part of your past. She said nothing. Now it is part of someone else's future. I ended the call. She stared out the window for a long time after that, not really seeing anything, just sitting inside a loss she could not name. Because it was never about the house. It was about control. It was about history being rewritten by the one person she never believed capable of it. She used to joke that legacy was something you inherited. She learned too late that legacy is something that can be taken quietly, legally, and forever. The quarterly shareholder meeting took place in the West Conference Tower. Same skyline, same polished podium, same practice smiles. But the room felt different now. Quieter, tight, like everyone knew something permanent was about to happen, even if they did not know how it would land. She sat near the front, not at the board table. Her badge was temporary. They called it protocol. Everyone knew what it really meant. She no longer voted. She no longer led. She no longer mattered. Low murmurs filled the room as Frank stepped to the microphone. His face showed nothing. Not anger. Not sympathy. Just resignation. Thank you all for attending, he said. Before we begin the earnings report, we have a procedural update regarding leadership. She straightened in her seat. Her pulse thudded behind her eyes. As you know, Frank continued, a shift in controlling interest occurred this quarter following consolidation of multiple holdings. That structure has now been formally reviewed and registered with state authorities. He paused, then looked up. We welcome our new board chair, Mr. Thomas Collins. The room froze. Someone in the back dropped a pen. She did not move. I entered without drama. Black suit. No tie. Calm hands. No anger in my posture. Just wait. The kind that makes a room adjust around you. I signed the register once. Then again. The clerk nodded. Done. No applause. No music. Just paper sliding and history ending. I turned and looked at her. She met my eyes. Her face tight. Jaw clenched. Trying to hold together whatever had not already collapsed inside her. I stepped closer. Not close enough to break decorum. Just close enough to be heard. You gave me freedom, I said. She swallowed. I gave you perspective, she replied. The words settled between us like smoke that would never clear. She looked around the room. At Evan, avoiding her eyes. At the chief financial officer, pretending to scroll a tablet. At the empty chair where her mother should have been. At Tyler, already gone. No one spoke. No one stood up for her. Not anymore. Later that afternoon, the new letterhead went live. Collins and Langley. No Stanton. Just like that. Her last name, the one printed on patents, brochures, and lobby signs for decades, disappeared. Not erased. Not vandalized. Absorbed. Quietly. Legally. Permanently. Because I did not take revenge. I took the future and rewrote it. Bye.